They say a broken heart is invisible, but if you looked into Elias's eyes that winter morning, you would swear you could see the cracks. Elias was known throughout the village as a kind and generous man. A gentle smile always rested on his lips, even when his hands were blistered from helping neighbors fix their roofs or gather water during the drought. But no one knew that behind his warm eyes was a storm, quiet, constant, and consuming. 3 years earlier, Elias had lost his wife in a tragic accident. She had gone to the river to wash clothes, slipped on the rocks, and never came back. Since then, Elias had lived in a strange silence. He spoke to others, but not to himself. He smiled at others, but forgot how to feel joy. He helped everyone except the one person who needed him most, himself. Each night, he sat by the old sycamore tree near the riverbank, the same place he had last seen her. He stared at the water as if hoping it would give her back, and each night he whispered the same question to the wind. "Why did you take her and leave me?" The villagers admired him, but assumed he had healed. They didn't notice the weight he carried each day like a stone hidden in his coat. They didn't see how every smile was stitched together by habit, not happiness. One day, a wandering monk named Kabir arrived in the village. He spoke little, observed much, and lived with astonishing calm. Intrigued, the villagers invited him to meals, asked for advice, but he rarely said more than a few words. Elias, curious and strangely drawn to him, invited Kabir to sit under the sycamore one evening. The two sat in silence for what felt like hours. The wind rustled the leaves, the river murmured. Finally, Elias broke the silence. "I lost her here." Kabir didn't ask who. He simply nodded. "And every day since, I've tried to make others smile, but I can't find my own." Kabir looked at the river, then back to Elias. "You are trying to pour from a dry cup," he said calmly. Elias blinked. It was the first time someone had seen through him so quickly. "Why does the sadness never leave?" Elias asked. Kabir reached into his satchel and pulled out a small candle. He lit it and placed it between them. "This flame," Kabir said, "is your grief. You've been trying to snuff it out by pretending it's not there. But maybe what you really need is to understand it." Elias frowned. "How do you understand grief?" "By letting it burn long enough to see what it's illuminating." He stood and pointed to the sycamore. "Do you know how old this tree is?" Elias shook his head. "Over 100 years. It's weathered storms, lightning, drought, but it's still here, not because it resisted pain, but because it allowed it to pass. It bent, it cracked, and then it healed." Elias looked at the twisted trunk, its scars etched deep into its bark. It had once been struck by lightning, and half its body was hollow, yet it stood, proud, rooted, alive. "You sit under this tree every day, yet you don't see it," Kabir said gently. "You see the place she died, but not the life that continues." That night, Elias didn't cry. He didn't smile either. But he felt something shift inside, like a window opening in a room long forgotten. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in years. He wrote a letter to himself. "Dear Elias," it began, "you've forgotten how to be with yourself, but you're still here, and being here is your first victory." Days passed, then weeks. Elias began sitting under the sycamore, not just to grieve, but to breathe. He spoke aloud, not to the wind, but to the memories. He told his wife stories. He laughed quietly at the silly things she used to do. And slowly, the cracks in his heart didn't vanish, but they started to glow, like gold in a broken bowl. One morning, a young boy named Theo, who had lost his parents in a fire, came to the river. Wordless, he sat beside Elias. Elias said nothing. He simply handed the boy the candle Kabir had once given him. Theo stared at it, then at Elias. "It helps," Elias said softly, "to have light in the dark." From that day on, Elias became known not just as the kind man, but the wise one. People still came to him for help, but now he helped from a place of truth, not hiding. His sadness never truly left, but it no longer controlled him. It became part of him, like the roots of the sycamore beneath the soil, invisible but strong. Life lesson. We often believe that to heal, we must stop feeling pain. But pain isn't the enemy. It's the proof that we've loved deeply, that we've lived fully. True strength isn't pretending everything's fine. It's learning to sit with our sorrow without letting it drown us. The day we stop fighting the sadness and start listening to it is the day it begins to transform. So whenever you feel sad, remember Elias. Sit by your own sycamore tree. Let the grief speak. Let it teach. And then let it go. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without breaking. And sometimes all it takes is a single candle to light up the darkest room.